Margaret Gibson was born in Philadelphia in 1944. She is the author of 9 books of poems, most recently One Body, which won the Connecticut Book Award for Poetry in 2008, and the forthcoming Second Nature. Other titles, all from Louisiana State University Press, include from the Final Fantasy Ultimania Archive, Volume 2. Shinra Company. President Shinra. Head of the Shinra Company, he discovered the effects of Mako energy and used it to grow his company into the largest industry on the planet. President Shinra sought to wipe out the resistance group Avalanche and to exploit the Ancient Girl era to help monopolize control of all Mako energy. In the end, he lost his life to a disguised Genova acting as Sephiroth. Memorable quotes. And such a waste of good fireworks just to get rid of vermin like you. At Mako Reactor 5, trying to kill the Avalanche members who blew up the reactor. Oh really, don't you know, these days all it takes for your dreams to come true is money and science. At Shinra Building telling Barrett about his plans for Neo Midgar. Scarlet. The lone woman was Shinra's executive management team, who hands down cruel orders with spiteful laugh. Scarlet was responsible for Barrett losing his hand in his hometown. As head of the weapons development, she created the Mako cannon, known as the Sister Ray. Well, now the show's about to begin. Ha ha ha. At the Junon branch of Shinra, sending Tifa to the gas chamber. I know this is a serious moment, but I'm just like, there's a picture over here of her, standing next to Heidegger. And I'm just staring at her tits. I'm just saying, don't get me wrong, I've seen a lot more of Yuffie and Tifa and Aerith and Jessie, but there is plenty of hentai of her as well. An excerpt of Clockwork Planet. Palm of his emancipated hand, what pushed back against his hand felt warm and soft. With glistening eyes, Ryu Zhu nestled her cheek against his hand as she sighed passionately before swearing. The first of the initial Y series. Ryu Yuzu, your slave, swears to accompany Master Naoto, devoting absolute submission and loyalty to him, as his servant until the very moment her gears break down and cease to turn. R-Y-U-Z-U, Ryuzu, with capital R, lowercase y, lowercase u, uppercase Z, uppercase U, had put into words a proclamation that, far from just a simple master confirmation, carried sacredness akin to that of a wedding vow. Wait, already eek? Beneath the invigorating morning sun piercing through a clear, dazzling blue sky, Naoto clung onto the guardrails of Kamo Uhashi Bridge as he gasped excruciatingly, his breath in complete disorder. I can't. Miss Ryuzu, I really can't. Help me. Master Naoto, to breathe so hard from such trivial exercise, I am surprised that you have been able to survive up till now, with that feeble body of yours. After such a thing happened yesterday, without nearly any sleep or a proper meal, making me run to school to call me feeble. Well said. I am honored to receive your compliment. Ryuzu briskly turned aside Naoto's sarcasm, born from his desperation. About an hour away on foot from where Naoto's apartment, an excerpt from Division Maneuver, a book that one of the biggest reasons I bought is on the cover is a girl just amazing thighs, ass, her shirt's like, and honestly, panties would be less revealing than the full-size outfit she has, and honestly, a bra would be less revealing than the top she is wearing. But it did succeed in getting me to buy the book. But yeah, from Division Maneuver. That touching moment sent a shockwave running through the crowd around them. The warrior princess had gone full dere. From that day forth, the phrase warrior dere could be heard in all corners of the school, referring, of course, to Suzuka Hanabi. Before starting school, Kuon had been hoping to get into the lunatic order somehow. He even worried about whether any squads would be willing to consider a Division 1 like him. It never occurred to him he'd be in such high demand. It was all thanks to Suzuka Hanabi. That alone was enough reason to accept her offer. But even beyond that was how much he enjoyed their mock battle. The idea of fighting alongside her excited Kuon. He'd never felt anything like that in his previous life. So, Okagawa Kuon resolved to join the Fuji squad. He wasn't trying to make up for having accidentally contributed to the creation of a weird buzzword like warrior dere, nor was he just there because of her boobs. Definitely not. Okay, I mean, maybe a little bit there, trying to not admit, but yeah, I'm just saying giant titties. It never occurred to him Hanabi may not have talked to the squad leader about it. In one corner of the school grounds was a building called the Order Hall. It was an old 3-story building, and one of its rooms was Lunatic Order Fuji Squad's meeting room. It was about half the size of a classroom, with a big desk plopped to one side. The entire desk was covered in a large screen which could produce holographic projections to help briefings and meetings proceed more efficiently. Currently, it was displaying Kuon Hanabi's mock battle. Surrounding the display were chairs, stationery supplies, coffee, snacks, and 4 people. A boy Kuon hadn't recognized was the squad's leader, a third-year high school student named Fuji Jindo. He was a handsome boy who gave the impression of being incredibly mild-mannered. Next to him stood Hanabi's friend, Mochiji Rin. Facing them was Suzuka Hanabi, who stood behind Okagawa Kuon, with her hands on his shoulders, nodding confidently. So this is Okagawa Kuon-kun, the Fuji Squad's newest member. Oh wait, Suzuka-kun, he's still in junior high. We can't let him. He fought me to a draw. What problem could there possibly be? Well, he's too young. No matter how you... Haha, that's ridiculous, Fuji-kun. You know perfectly well you're always the first to complain about being underestimated by the real soldiers because we're only students. You always say to judge people by their ability, not age. That's true, but... And you can always just go up against him in a mock battle yourself. Side note. Various novels like that have lots and lots of pictures throughout the book. Big fan of that. An excerpt from the Starfinder 2nd edition GM Core. Threats. The galaxy of Desna's path is threatened. Some of these menaces are powerful but selfish entities, acting alone, while others are groups of entire civilizations that threaten the galaxy's stability. This is the point where someone makes a 40K reference. Larger groups aren't monoliths, and many individuals can be negotiated with or might even have cordial relationships with the adventurers. Some might just have an opposing viewpoint for a practical reason, such as a necessity demanded by biology or control from an outside force. The following threats have important roles to play in the Starfinder setting, particularly in relation to the Pact Worlds. Aslantai Star Empire. Located in the vast near the region of space known as the Hydra Nebula, Aslanti Star Empire is an offshoot of humanity who departed Galorian using magical innovations in eras even before the Gap, settling on the world of New Thespera. The Empire expanded massively following the advent of drift travel by deploying elite Aeon Guard forces in critical locations and establishing colonies across massive swaths of space. Following a brief encounter with a Starfinder Society explorer, the Aslanti Star Empire's ruling Aeon throne became aware of the Pact system's location. But has yet to launch any forays to their ancestral home or any campaigns to find lost Galorian. Only recently a sudden and brutal coup, instigated by the High Priest of Lisala, Ishmarai Ophir caused a dramatic shift in power within the empire. Reigning Loxometer twins were deposed, ending in one twin's exile and the other's assassination, and the state church of Lasala assumed regency of the empire to prevent further chaos and establish the next heir to the throne. Under Ishmara's leadership, the Aslanti Star Empire deployed their new Shidderon Guard fleet to invade Kataria, where a fragile peace between Vescarium and Aslanti forces, stranded during the Drift Crisis, turned into all-out war between the two powers. Corporations. Hundreds of major corporations operate within the Pact Worlds, and even more are active in near space and the vast. A few mega-corporations like Abadacor, Abracadabra, Abra, Alakazam, are powerful enough to have established branches and operations all over the galaxy, but most operate on a smaller scale. Many corporations act as beneficial institutions while others operate at the fringes of legality. Unethical companies can quickly come into conflict with adventurers, or even act as temporary sponsors. Frozen Trove is a Triaxis-based corporation under draconic management. Though most of their corporate facilities exist outside the Pact Worlds, Frozen Trove is infamous for performing illegal and unethical experiments in remote locations or even on pre-drift capable worlds, where they can test their biotech prototypes and study genetically engineered organisms that only exist off the record. Broader in scope, Asrinaran corporations represent the generational achievements of elven families who escaped Galorium during the Gap and settled on Apostai. Rampant with nepotism and transactions that skirt Pact Worlds legality. Asrinian groups represent some of the most well-known corporations in the Pact Worlds, including Arabani Arms, and Zyzer Munitions. Corpse Fleet. Following the signing of the Pact and the formation of the Pact Worlds, many powerful undead on Eox disagreed with their leader's decision to join a federation that would put them on equal footing with the living species of their system. Following the leadership of decorated officer Undying Admiral Shathrava, the Corpse Fleet broke away from the Eox society and escaped into the vast. Having spent centuries building their power base, the Corpse Fleet is now an undead civilization unto itself, with strongholds spread throughout the vast, and even into the entropic plane of the void. Loyal Corpse Fleet privateers believe in the supremacy of undeath over the living, who they believe are useful only as fodder for future undead. Shathrava's goal is unifying all undead privateer fleets into a force large enough to bring the Pact Worlds fleet to heal and establish undead supremacy within the Pact system by seizing the Starstone. Cult of the Devourer. A force of nature as much as of religion. The servants of the Devourer act impulsively to spread chaos and destruction across the galaxy. People who pledge to serve the god of cosmic annihilation are often sadistic cannibals and berserkers who dedicate themselves to honoring their patron through acts of mass destruction and violence. Such groups rarely maintain cohesion. Leaders quickly emerge to enact a bloody agenda before burning themselves out, sometimes literally. The only consistent threat from the Devourer's unstable cult are atrocities, monsters who escaped Pharasma's judgment to continually serve the Devourer as agents of oblivion. Atrocities are often summoned by cultists desiring maximum carnage. First Ones. This mysterious precursor species established outposts on a handful of worlds, and then disappeared without any indication of where they went. The forlorn remnants of their civilization remain, including their abandoned progeny, the robotic Anesthetes of Avalon. In their creator's absence, many anesthetites strive to become modern incarnations of the First Ones, or seek reconnection with their lost progenitors. Recent discoveries by the Starfinder Society and other organizations have hinted at a wider First Ones presence throughout the cosmos, including discoveries of ruins within the Pact System's sun, as well as orbiting the sun of the Velaka home world of Lojak. The First Ones returned to the modern galactic stage with the sudden arrival of a mysterious starship into the Pact System, followed by its partially controlled crash onto the surface of Akiton, known as the Wreck of the Return. This vessel bears many similarities to the mysterious technology of the First Ones, and has unleashed defenses well beyond the Pact world's understanding of magic and technology. Was the vessel a gift or a weapon?
Gitaron Authority. Sometime during the gap, it's believed that a great civilization existed in near space, founded by the goblinoid colonists who left the Pact System long ago. Following the gap, this empire had fallen and was replaced by two major powers, the Markazar Republic and the Gideon Authority. Whereas the Markazar Republic is a democratic civilization with strong ties to the Pact worlds, the Gideon Authority is an authoritative military regime with delusions of reclaiming the glory of the empire. Both sides have no recollection of, though smaller in size compared to the relative giants of the Aslanti Empire, and the Vescarium. Gideon Authority and its mighty platoons of goblin troops have their eye on surrounding territories and don't seem likely to stop expanding anytime soon.
Insatiable Eclipse. The birth of the newborn in the Pact worlds called forth a terror. Ryox's distant past. The remorseless undead entity known as the Insatiable Eclipse has since begun to reclaim its own domain on the Grave World. Yox's ruling bone sages have done their best to silence news of the harrowing destruction of Mirthal, the ancient necropolis above the veiled tomb. The insatiable eclipse won't be sated until it drinks the life force of all living creatures. Its crazed followers seek the peace they believe will follow the extinction of all life. The Jinsul Hierarchy. The chitinous species known as Jinsuls were first encountered by Pact Worlders when the Starfinder Society began exploring the scouted stars. Jinsuls believe that only the descendants of the 8 civilizations originally from the scoured stars are worthy to exist in the universe. They believe the walking deity Kadrakal created them for the purpose of shepherding his flock into a new age and purging the wolves. Starfinder Society agents defeated Kadrakal's herald in a climactic showdown that broke the Jinso's resolve and scattered them throughout the vast. Now led by errant hierarchs, Jinso fleets prey on trade lanes and attack settlements in near space and the vast. Following an inscrutable agenda, hierarch Jurastrun commands the largest contingent of Jinso warriors from their mobile fortress world of Otarak. Swarm, with numbers beyond measure. The monstrous insectile swarm is perhaps the greatest threat to the stability of the galaxy thus far discovered. United by a ferocious hive mind, the swarm devours worlds and adapts. The threat of just even a single colony brought the Pact Worlds and the Viscarium together as a unified force, though the colony's defeat came at a high cost. Since a colony was defeated in the Swarm War, the greater swarm has avoided near space and begun eating a path through the vast. The relatively recent discovery of swarm life forms on Krethskar within near space let loose a previously dormant colony. The Krethskar colony has since expanded rapidly into near space, attacking the worlds of Zandak Collective without mercy. The Krethskar swarm is rumored to be commanded by a mutated Shirin with a familiar face. The Krethskar swarm components have a different appearance and composition than those of the true swarm, but this deviant lineage has thus far proven just as tenacious as the limitless hordes of swarm lurking in the vast. It is both reminiscent of the Tyranids and Warhammer. The next section goes on various factions, which goes on for like ever. But yeah, there's Tyranids and Warhammer. There's also the Zerg and the old StarCraft RTS game. That was a great game. I like the art and everything about it. Most of all, the music. The music in that game was awesome. An excerpt from The Hidden Dungeon Only I Can Enter, Volume 1. Don't make me laugh. Now get over here. I shrink, fearing I was in for another round of abject agony. But I needn't have worried. I was the one doing the throwing. I want you to use a shoulder throw. Pull me onto your shoulder and flip me. I started by grabbing one of Miss Elena's arms and then tried to get a grip on her shirt, but my hand ended up right on her chest. What are you hesitating for? I'm not sure how I should say this, but what? Worried about your fingers touching my chest? What are you, some blushing bride? Understood, ma'am. I got a firm grip on her chest and pulled her toward me. Then I twisted my body to get her onto my back and threw her to the ground. Or at least that was the idea, but I didn't want to hurt her, so I didn't actually let go. She tucked her chin so she wouldn't hit her head and used her hands to soften her landing. Then she popped right back up. This is how you take a throw properly. You can get the wind knocked out of you when your back hits the ground, but it's better than the alternative. It's also worth noting that he softened his throw just now. In a real combat situation, you'll just be tossed onto the ground and get your face stomped on. That sounds a little excessive, I muttered. Generally, the idea is to not to get thrown in the first place, of course. Now, Noir and Maria, you try it. She wanted to use us as another example. Very well, Mr. Noir, said Maria. Please go ahead and throw me then. I winced. I think you should do the throwing. Oh, but I must insist. No, I mean, I'm a man, so what are you two yammering on about? Just throw Noir already. Miss Elena was getting irritated by our dithering. I felt suddenly shy as I stood in front of Maria, what with her porcelain skin, pink lips, and perfectly proportioned body. Tentatively, she reached for me with one pale hand and meekly gripped my chest. Lady Amane told me that you're ill, I whispered. Are you? Oh no, nothing of the sort. I simply have not had much occasion to touch men, so I'm rather nervous. You too! Miss Elena was glaring openly. Could you two knock it off already? This old lady's had about as much of it as she can take. An excerpt from Reborn as a Space Mercenary. I woke up piloting the strongest starship. It's an isekai, but, you know, in outer space with starships and hot anime girls, and for some reason there's elves in outer space. Volume 1. Costumes, witch robes, bunny outfits, and more. Despite the little futuristic touches, it looked like a full-on cosplay shop. Not that I was complaining. Really? Mimi said. I think they're cute, though they do look expensive. Cute, really? I said. Yes, Mimi seemed confused. Well, whatever, let's go on. Let's go in. Yes, sir. Despite the outward display, the shop was shockingly normal inside. Mimi buzzed with excitement. She didn't seem put off by the weird costumes at all. I guess the question for everyone is this. If you had a harem of anime girls, would they cosplay? What would they wear if money wasn't an option? What would you wear? I'd probably wear cosplay outfits if, like, one, I could afford such a thing, and two, I don't know, if I wasn't so fucking ugly. Where were we? She didn't seem put off by the weird costumes at all. I guess I'd have to go with the flow. Maybe cosplay was cutting-edge fashion here. No way, I muttered myself. This ain't normal, Mimi raised an eyebrow. Futuristic or not, the clothing on display here was definitely still cosplay. Oh, maybe the real clothing is invite only? They must have normal options in the back. I mean, who in the world would walk around wearing this stuff? How is this place making money? Welcome! How can I help you? An employee appeared, wearing a smile and a high-tech rabbit ear headband. Her whole uniform was a bunny suit, in fact. We're here to buy some clothes, I said. Do you have any normal, non-hobby clothes? Yes, of course, sir. I don't know what that accent's supposed to be. It's terrible, though. Okay, I said. Mimi, go pick out some clothes and underwear with her. I'll be, we have seats over here. Go on, don't be shy, the employee urged. Gotcha. Mimi hesitated. Don't worry about the cost. Just buy what you need. Cool? Yes, sir. Mimi nodded. Good. That was much better than her being modest and missing out on something she needed. Ah, how sweet, the employee said. Mimi here is learning to be a mercenary, I said. Or an operator, I guess. You know what I am based on my outfit, don't you? Are you a mercenary? Oh, does that mean she's on your ship with you? Yep. Oh, the bunny girl looked back and forth between us. Well, we have many things you might both like, from the modest to the sensual. Good job bagging her, buddy. Can you just find something that looks merkish? Merkish. Maybe like an operator? The rest is up to her. Yes, sir. Come, dear, right this way. She took Mimi's hand. Huh? Oh, okay. They vanished into the back of the shop. Well, I was in for a long wait. Unfortunately, I couldn't entertain myself by wandering around. They only had women's clothing here, so I'd looked weird as hell, prowling around through it. Instead, I pulled out my terminal and started writing a message to Elma. You really stirred up trouble, I wrote. Yeah, I'm just saying the clothing that all of the characters, like you have the main, granted, I mean, like, especially just on the back cover, like, it's the main tech suit that Sato Takahiro is wearing, the main character. It is very reminiscent of Cyberpunk 2077 type outfit, like, you know, V from Edge Runners. Well, not, you know, both Cyberpunk, the anime, and the video game. It also reminds me of Soul Eater, the anime. So imagine if you made an anime cosplay that's a mix of Cyberpunk 2077 and Cyberpunk Edgerunners and Soul Eater, the anime. I mean, I'm just saying I'd wear it, you know, if I could afford to buy it. I don't even know if such an outfit exists. Okay, we're going to read an excerpt from Magistella's Bad Trip. The front cover has our main character next to a woman with giant titties and, let's just say, the same horns as Albedo from Overlord. Play your cards right and you might just win. A high school student with millions of in-game earnings, Kaname So is one of the strongest dealers in Money Game Master. A virtual world where nothing is against the rules. Assisted by his succubus AI partner, Celica, he rules the Overtrick, a set of powerful cheat level weapons. He seeks the Overtrick, a set of powerful cheat level weapons that break the laws of physics. And one young girl. What does it take to save somebody in a VR city with gunfights, car chases, and high-stakes stock market gambling? What exactly is in the cards for Kaname and his associates? Comfortably trusting that information when they're already in a rough spot. In that case, what do you think? Kaname felt a sharp pain in his nose. The mysterious lion's nose that went beyond the five senses had found a new target. Kaname peered around the building site through the slanting rain, taking it all in. It's the security cameras, he finally declared. You mean they've bought out a security company? No. Look over there. Kaname pointed through the windshield, through the scene swept by the wipers to a dirty wall on which was installed an inelegant boxy camera. Why are there security cameras when the building isn't even finished yet, he asked. The wiring for that sort of thing ought to be left until last. Wait, you don't mean they don't need to take over a security company? They've just bought a bunch of security cameras and put them up all over the city themselves. They're so conspicuous that nobody would think they're spying on anyone. They just think that these were normal cameras. AG Wolves have set up a system whereby they can freely spy on everyone in the entire Peninsula District, at the very least. Perhaps they had gotten their 1,000 backers to help them set up the cameras. It didn't seem like the dozen or so core members could have accomplished it alone. Kaname lowered his window, unbothered by the storm, and fired a short spear at the camera, piercing it with a single bullet. It was all an act that served little purpose now. Kaname shared his information with Midori, controlling the digital keyboard with his gaze, but he received a rather odd response. Midori? Huh? You mean AG Wolf saw you and me hugging? No. What if he finds out? He'll think I'm unchaste and impure. Midori, stop messing around. AG Wolves could be on us at any moment. Now, in case you're a little bit curious, Kaname's name is spelled K-A-N-A-M-E-S-U-O-U. Silica is T-S-E-L-I-K-A. That's the succubus. And Midori is M-I-D-O-R-I. And Magistellus Bad Trip is spelled M-A-G-I-S-T-E-L-L-U-S. Bad Trip. You guys remember the anime Tokyo Ghoul? I'll put a nice song in the description. You guys can listen to something, I don't know, uplifting, I guess. Excerpts from the Codex Infernus, official Savage Worlds licensed product. These are all pretty long books. The post-apocalyptic hell. The difficulty with staging a campaign focused around hell within a post-apocalyptic framework is one of distinction. After all, why would players fight to save the world from encroaching hell when the world itself is a scorched wasteland? There are a couple of ways of approaching this, and it depends very much on your inclination as a GM and what your players are going to find the most fun. The first solution is the apocalypse with which the world has suffered is the biblical apocalypse, or an equivalent. Hell cleansed earth. And your players are a ragtag remnant of the world, trying to make their way to a promised Eden. Perhaps this type of game can tie into the above modern campaign. The second framework looks at exploring the old phrase hell on earth in a slightly more interesting way. Perhaps the fact that the world is now a ravaged, inhospitable ruin makes the interaction between earth and hell that much more even. Perhaps travel between the realms is now open. Perhaps there is now trade, negotiation, even diplomacy. How did the players deal with this? How does the Dreadlord treat the scorched earth now that those who inhabit it are as damned as those he has already claimed? Do the Overfiends suddenly recognize their opportunity to stake their own claim to a larger fiefdom than they possess in hell? A third framework is to have the players as the last spot of light in a sea of darkness. Hell's limitless forces close in around them, and they must fight to the very last, trying desperately to find some means of saving themselves and perhaps restoring the world to its previous state. You'll notice that in all these frameworks make use of the well-known post-apocalyptic tropes, things you could see in a Mad Max or early J.G. Ballard. Part of the reason for this is that many of the themes of hellish settings, despair, futility, human depravity manifesting itself in strange, unpleasant ways, are the same as post-apocalyptic themes. This can be a real advantage, as players will inevitably compare the two, and the ambiguity of their position in a decayed world can be extremely useful for a GM and extremely fruitful from a story point of view. For the campaign overview, we will be working with the second framework. There's lots of really cool pictures in this book. At one point I started making videos reading the beginning part of it. I suppose we'll mainly just read the back. And The Savage Guide to Hell. A holy warrior fighting back infernal beasts on the precipice of a fiery pit, cloaked figures chanting an incantation to bring forth a nameless beast, a man standing at a crossroads bartering with a demonic temptress for fame and fortune, the price of which is his very soul, advisors to kings and queens, dictators and presidents, whispering lies at the behest of their demon lords, with the fate of nations resting on whether or not the advice is heeded, a scientist examining a strange artifact found on a distant planet that, unbeknownst to him, opens a mysterious gate to a nightmarish dimension when a button is pushed. These are just a sampling of the myriad images which come to mind when we think of hell. Codex Infernus, The Savage Guide to Hell, brings those images to life and shows you how to plug them into your games, regardless of what genre you love to play. In this book, you'll find ready-to-play character archetypes for fantasy and modern games, new fantasy races, new demonic races, new edges and arcane backgrounds, guidelines for creating infernal weapons, guidelines for blessing weapons, even if you don't have one, don't have an arcane background, an immersive fantasy campaign setting, a detailed section on hell itself, guidelines for creating cults, a brief look at hell in various cultures stemming back to ancient Mesopotamia, rules for demonic pacts, demonic possession, and an optional corruption system, hellish hazards, and a gazetteer filled with demons you can use in your game. Now, as far as the rest of this, well, the general part of the book, like if I were to read the table of contents, you have the introduction, which is new races. Then the Book of Creation, character archetypes, new skills, edges and hindrances, the power of faith. The Book of Making, you have dark priests, angelic weapons, demonic weapons, hellforged weapons, corruption. Then you have the Book of Law, which is about demonic pacts, demonic possession, exorcism, hell changes a man, they know you're here. The Book of Agron, which is, I think, the main part I was reading a few years ago. We have In the Beginning, the First Magi, the Stone Gates, the Codex Infernus, the Grand Council, the Netherworld, of the Dark and Wild, Agron's Doom, Aftermath, An Uncertain Future in Agron. Then you have the Book of Hell, the Augur, the Topology of Hell. Then you have the Book of Worlds, the Landscape of Fear, the Sumerians, Zoroastrians, the Cult of Osiris, Sheol, Olympian, Hoodooism, Hinduism, Buddhism, the Middle Kingdoms, Norse mythology, Africa, Islam, Oceania, Mesoamerica, the DMV, the Ultimate Hell, Hell in Your Game, new campaigns, Tonight Game in Hell, a classic fantasy setting, a modern fantasy setting, a post-apocalyptic hell, Victorian hell, science fiction hell, cults, sample cult, final thoughts, the Book of Legion, hellish hazards, lesser demons, greater demons, demon lords, other creatures, an index, and backers. I don't know. If any of these sound interesting, maybe I'll come back to reading them for videos to you guys. But, yeah. Anyway, I suppose I probably should do my intro, I guess. Greetings, one and all, to the most cursed, most cringiest corner of the internet. A YouTube channel content creator actively alienating everyone in both the analog and digital world. Well, welcome and good evening, you wonderful dice of all alignments. I am Lunar D8, the Lunatic Angel, your tsundere streamer who doesn't stream. And thanks for hanging out with me. I hope everyone had a good day, and hope all of you had all the hugs and head pats you could ever want or need. Later. Bye.